So up here at the property, we're pretty much running a generator 24 hours a day when we're up here. Going out and refilling a generator every 6 to 8 hours can be pretty inconvenient, especially in the winter. When it's 15 degrees outside and you got to go out at 2 o'clock in the morning to top off your tank. I've been running this extended run system for a long time, and this is all just something that I pieced together off of Amazon. You can go out and buy a full system. Some of those are pretty pricey, some of them are pretty reasonable, and different generators require different things. This Honda is pretty simple. The Predator is actually pretty simple too, except you do have to get into it and make a little conversion so that it'll run properly on an extended run fuel tank. So I needed to replace this little shutoff valve. This is my fuel tank. It's a 6-gallon fuel tank that I just keep topped off, and it'll pretty much run one of these generators for 24 hours pretty easily. But the valve on this thing is getting kind of bad, so I was going to replace the valve, replace the fuel filter, and I figured this would be a good time to kind of show you guys how this whole setup works. I'll put a link to everything that I used down in the description if you want to get that from Amazon. A lot of it's pretty cheap, pretty reasonable. The most expensive thing is going to be this fuel tank. So this is just a marine fuel tank for an outboard gas engine that you throw in the back of a boat. It works pretty good. It's got a little gas gauge on it that I hardly ever use. I just unscrew the cap. With both of these smaller generators, it's at least 24 hours before this thing's going to run out. But you've got the fuel tank, you've got some line. I put a shutoff valve in here, and I went ahead and put a fuel filter in here. And then the big thing are these caps. So this is the one for the Honda, and this is the one for the Predator. I'll get into all the issues that I had with the Predator here in just a little bit. But it's really that simple. It's a gravity feed system, so you do need to have this thing up above your generator so that it can siphon down into the generator while you're running. So while I'm explaining this, I'm going to go ahead and replace this valve that is getting a little tight. It seems like it works fine, but I think I'm just going to throw a new one in that way. Nice and easy. I bought these shutoff valves on Amazon. They came with the fuel filters. I think it was a 4-pack. Back when I bought them, they were pretty cheap. It was, I think, under 20 bucks, but I'll put a link in the description, like I said below. I always like to run a fuel filter on here because whenever you're filling this thing up or anything, if you do have some dirt in one of your fuel can nozzles or something, at least it stops here before going down to the generator. So I just got some little clamps. I can't remember if these were the clamps that came with it. But these clamps are pretty cheap too. These are just little worm drive stainless clamps, and we're just gonna pop everything off. You'll see there's fuel in this thing right now, so we'll just drain that off to the side, set that down. I doubt that there's anything wrong with that fuel filter, but I'm just gonna replace it since I'm here anyways. These are just little cheap plastic shutoff valves. They're pretty much what's on a lot of stuff anyways, so don't feel bad about it being plastic. This thing's been outside in the sun and the elements for the last 3 years, and it was just starting to get a little tight, and I decided, you know what, it's just time to replace it. Eventually I'm going to break it, and gonna need to replace it anyways, so might as well break it before or get it replaced before it's broken. So if you're building this yourself, you're going to get your fittings so that you can get a push on. You're going to go from there to a shutoff valve, from there to the fuel filter, and then I give myself, at first I had like 20 feet of hose because I really wanted to keep the tank away. I've since obviously shortened it. It's probably 7-8 feet right now. And then you've got a little primer ball here. So it's basically up to this point right before the cap, it's just like an outboard motor setup for a boat. Got the outboard tank, got a shutoff, got a fuel filter, got a primer ball, and then that goes into the cap. So in my opinion, the easiest way to set one of these up, and probably the best way, especially with the Honda, is just with one of these caps. So the way that the tank is vented on the Honda, it is vented through the cap, which makes it super simple. You can just screw the lid on, screw the cap on, and this thing has a hole cut in it when you buy it on Amazon, and usually it comes with some fittings. You may have to get the right size fittings for whatever size hose you're using, and literally that's it. So this hose, I've got it cut right now because I swapped over and ran this one for the first time all night long last night. And I was gonna install some quick disconnects, and the quick disconnects that I bought for this thing, I don't really like them, so maybe that'll be another video. But just like that, that thing will just run because you're venting the tank through the cap. Now with the Predator, it gets a little bit more complicated because of the emissions compliance stuff that's going on in here. It's got a canister filter that the tank is venting through. So if you just put the cap on, so let me show you how simple that is. If you just put the cap on like that, without addressing the venting that's going on inside here, it won't run right. It will just sit there and kind of die out. It'll end up flooding the carb. It'll puke fuel out because the tank has a vent inside that goes to that canister filter that's in there for emissions compliance stuff. So I'll show you how to deal with that here in just a second. Now the Honda, I absolutely love. It is the simplest one to do. Hondas are pricey. The Predator, I don't know, Harbor Freight stuff used to be kind of junky. I've got to admit, I've had this thing for a couple of years. I'm super impressed with it. It's held up really well. I run a bunch of these at work because of the cost. And, you know, I'm in construction, watching those guys use and abuse these things, forget to change oil regularly, all that stuff. Honestly, the stuff gets stolen out of our trucks before it breaks down usually. So I've been pretty impressed in just my personal experience running this thing up here. Super impressed. But the Honda is the simplest one to be able to convert. All you need is the cap, the tank, all this fuel line, and it'll just run just like that. There's no modifications needed. The Predator is going to need a little bit of work, and there's a couple of different ways to run these things long run. I personally like the cap. There's also a system where you plumb in your fuel line into the tank vent line in here so that the fuel is flowing from the tank into the tank vent, which is filling up the tank, thus letting the generator run. So you're taking that canister filter out of the equation. Both ways, whether you convert it to be able to run out of the fuel cap with this style, or if you plumb direct, you're gonna have to take that canister filter out of the equation. So let me show you how to do that. This is how I did mine. Now to get into the generator, you're going to be on this fuel cap side. So you can see the fuel cap, you've got the spill. there's 2 bolts. Pop those off. This thing pops out, and then that gets you access inside here. So once you've got that cover open, you can see the canister filter here, which is hooked up to your fuel tank up here. So this line right here comes down to the air filter and vents this canister filter. This line right here goes to your fuel tank. Now you can see there's an on-off valve here. This is what I put in. So I can open the on-off valve, allow this tank to vent just like normal. That way I can run it in a normal configuration with just the regular lid. If I want to run it in extended run, I just close this, which prevents the tank from venting or overfilling and leaking down here into the canister filter and then running down into the air filter down here. So your tank would basically just drain because it's just filling this tank up from your extended run, and then it just goes out the overflow into here and down, and then you run in with a bunch of issues with venting. And this thing, when I first did it without this, I did not know about this at first. I just found the cap online and bought it. It just would not run right, and that was because the tank wasn't vented properly, and I just had all kinds of problems. So did some research online, figured out that this vent line was the problem. Came up with, if I wanted to run it both ways, I could just put an on-off valve here. I got a 4-pack of those things when I was doing the extended run tank anyways, so I just threw it in there. All's good. That's the only modification you have to make. Hopefully this video helps you. Both the Predators and the Hondas can be run like that with the fuel cap style long run setup. Predators take a little bit extra work. It's not that complicated. Even a novice DIYer can get that done. Maybe leave the panel off while you're running it for the first time to just make sure that you don't have any fuel leaks. But it's not that bad. So we'll see you on the next video.